this information for us, so we look forward to this discussion. I just hope when we finish here, this retreat, I think, is a critical milestone in our mission, and so we want to make sure that we're all engaging as much as we can and discussing as much as we can. So this is all very critical information, and I just thank you all, again, each and every one of you for your preparation. So we'll go ahead. I'll turn this over to Dr. LeBlanc. And first, I need to call the meeting to order. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. LeBlanc, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So as I met with the different board members, each had information that they needed, and we have a lengthy list. So what you will see today is the first part of the conversation in responding to all your questions, and we will follow up throughout as we have work sessions and board meetings. You do have some cards next to you, so as you hear presentations or as things come to mind, please jot them down. And I hope folks from the audience do the same, because we're going to give big picture information this morning. And I want to make sure that everyone is heard. The first part of the presentation is dealing with the big picture economic overview. And you have three different handouts. And for those for those in the audience, we emailed them to you. And we have the industry spotlight, which is all the industries in Tarrant County. And then we also have a report that we pulled together for the Carl Perkins Grant. So as you know, the Carl Perkins Grant is designed for technical programs. It's to ensure that the community colleges have technical programs that are up to speed with what the community needs in preparing the future workforce, and also has the equipment and the personnel. So in recent years, in preparation for preparing the budget for Perkins, we have done quite a bit of data analysis, and we've also started the process of more intrusive, perhaps would be the term, program evaluation. So we have programs that probably need to be sunset and programs that we need to develop. And in order to develop the new programs and utilize the repurposed resources, we need to sunset some programs. So the presidents have already been informed. The vice presidents for academic affairs, the deans are all working on these elements. And we won't take time to review it this morning. I wanted you to have this information as it relates to the conversation that we will have with Shannon Bryant. So Shannon Bryant is over corporate solutions and economic development. She works closely with the business community and has developed some interesting programs. So I'll let her have the floor now.
There we go. Can you hear me? Good morning. Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. President Ayala, Trustees, thank you for having me today. I've got a lot to cover in a little bit of time, so I'm going to get started. The purpose of the conversation today is really, I've been here 2.5 years now at TCC. I know. Can you believe it? And so I want to talk about some of the achievements of the Corporate Solutions team. Yes, ma'am. Sure, absolutely. Certainly. Well, the first one is I have a Master's of Education in Corporate Training and Knowledge Management. I also have a Master's in E-Learning Development. There is also a national credential called the Certified Workforce Development Professional through the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals in Washington, D.C. I am certified through them as a professional workforce development expert. And I am also a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, which is the last initials. Does that help? Certainly. So I want to talk a little bit today about the accomplishments of where we are 2.5 years in. So just as a reminder to all of the trustees, I lead 2 departments here at Tarrant County College. One is the Corporate Solutions Department, and then I also lead the Tarrant County Small Business Development Center, the SBDC. I'm not going to get into a lot of that today. I'm going to touch on it briefly, but I really want to focus on corporate solutions. So not only talking about the achievements today, but I also have some areas where I need your support. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well. So let's start with the mission of corporate solutions and economic development. I know there's been some confusion with the changes and the transitions that have taken place over the past couple of years. And what has happened is, completely rebuilt the team with new job descriptions, new positions. Currently have a team of 9. We're all housed out at the Alliance facility on the 3rd floor, where we're at the new Center for Learning and Development. And our focus is really this. It is being the face of business, industry, and local economic development for Tarrant County College. So every day we are going out and we are visiting with business and industry and talking to CEOs and leaders and executives from organizations to ask one question. And that question is, what are your workforce needs and how can TCC assist you? When we get answers back, those answers are typically, I want to hire your graduates because I have open positions on my team and I need skilled labor. How can you connect us into the college? Perhaps they will also ask about, I need to hire an intern, or I need an apprenticeship program. Or perhaps they don't even know what an apprenticeship program is, nor the value that it could bring to their organization. In those instances, the Corporate Solutions Department serves as a broker for the college. Those are the instances and the moments where I will go back to my fellow colleagues, the presidents, and reach out and say, hey, we have a connection with this company. This is what they're asking for. So some recent examples is just recently took Dr. Lufkin to a modular design fabrication company here in Fort Worth, or actually they're in Euless. They were asking for trying to fill their pipeline. They do prefab hotel rooms and sanitized restrooms for hospitals, and they need a workforce, and they're struggling, just like everyone is right now. And so took Dr. Lufkin and his team out, and we're working with them right now and potentially putting together a Department of Labor apprenticeship program. Working with Sean and his team here at Trinity River, working with Texas Health Resources on a patient care technician program. And so bringing those things back to the college where we may not otherwise hear of those. So it's serving as that broker for the college. And then also, I guess the main area of my team is to work in the space of developing customized contract training with organizations. And that is where we get into what is our target market. And our target market is really that of the incumbent workforce. So the existing workforce of the employers in the region. Why is this work important? Because let me give you a few statistics. During the pandemic, America lost about 20 million workers. As of a few weeks ago, the Department of Labor and the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that there are currently 11.3 million jobs open in this country. That means that every American who is job seeking currently has 1.8 positions available to them. It is a lot easier these days to retain an employee than it is to try to hire one. So what does that mean for the work that we're doing? It's engaging with those employers and making them think differently, talking to them about their incumbent workforce. One of the key areas that we're working in is the space of organizational effectiveness and leadership. Any and everything as it relates to essential skills, soft skills, leadership. So asking questions like, do you have any bad bosses in your organization? Do you have any kind of process in your organization that is causing deficiencies? It's causing people issues, and taking that information from those organizations and designing customized solutions. So on the board in front of you, you have just a few small examples. 2.5 years being here, the first year was really spent listening and talking and taking the operation from what was very reactive to business and industry to much more proactive, and listening to the organizations and meeting them where they are. And that's what this work is about, is engaging with the employers to meet them where they are, to talk to them about how we can fill their talent pipeline with our students who are coming through our academic programs, but then also how can we help sustain them for the long term. And that's really what this work is about. So on the board, you will see some of our most recent clients. That includes Alcon, Bell Textron, Comanche Peak Power Plant. There's just a list of them there. And we're just getting started. So consider us to be kind of a new startup business, if you will, where we are going out and we are doing facilitation. We are doing consulting. We are also doing coaching. So executive coaching. We have a number of new programs that we're going to get started with here soon that are starting to launch. And I'll explain those here in just a moment. Frida, if you could go. So one of the first things that we have done, we have developed a brand new series called the Coffee Talk Professional Development Series. This is once a month, we are doing a 90-minute value-add breakfast. We are now once a quarter doing a 2-hour luncheon. These are on topics from conflict management to effective communication to leadership to active listening, any and everything that is a broad brushstroke across every industry. I don't care if you're a gas station, I don't care if you're a manufacturing company, healthcare, a financial services company. These are topics that relate to any and everyone in any industry. And so this is really a business incubation program, if you will, where we are getting people in the door. We had one about 3 weeks ago, and we had 17 companies who came in and were present for this engagement. We charge $25 for the breakfast. We charge $50 for the luncheons. And it's getting businesses to come in and to hear the value of what TCC can provide to their incumbent workforce, with the intention that they love what they hear, they see the value we bring, and then they contact us to come back to put together proposals for more customized work. And so that is the space that we're working in right now. And these are just some examples at the bottom bullet there of some recent companies that came in to visit with us, did the breakfast briefings. We're doing these every month. One of the things that I have my strategic marketing manager working on is we're going to start working on push cards that highlight what each breakfast briefing is each month, and I'm hoping to be able to send those to Reg so he can send those to all of you so you can push those out as you're out in the community. So that's one area of support we need, is supporting the Coffee Talk series, the professional development series, and getting people in the door. Frida, if you could. We're also in the process of developing what we're calling right now learning and development programs. So in a sense, these are kind of like open enrollment programs. These are examples of ones that we're currently doing. I have an organizational industrial psychologist on my team, Dr. Bryant, and she is certified in the DISC assessment as well as various other assessments. And so we've been getting requests from employers asking us to do assessments. A lot of these assessments are around cognitive and behavioral activities of their employees and how they play well or don't play well nice in the sandbox with each other. We're not just selling the tool, we're selling coaching around that. And so how do we empower the existing workforce and be able to elevate them to the next level? We're also getting a lot of requests for emerging leaders in organizations. How many of us have ever been in a situation where we've worked for a company and all of a sudden the boss comes in one day and says, "Congratulations, you're a manager." I've never been a manager before. So we are helping organizations to empower their employees through leadership training at both brand new leaders to the C-suite leaders to the middle leaders, which I call sandwich managers. And we're helping those organizations put some kind of learning development program to help sustain and retain their workforce. We are also starting to move into the space of customer service and contact center. I just had us registered with an organization called Benchmark Portal, where we can now offer an industry credential that's considered the gold standard in contact centers. And so we're working with organizations right now with the Ladder Alliance. In particular, we're working on a big initiative with them right now for their client base to get them certified in call center. So those ladies that are part of that organization could go out with a credential to get a job in a call center. Economic development. What does that mean? That means for the past 2.5 years, I have been serving as the economic development liaison for TCC. These are just a few of the local economic development offices I've been engaging with. And it's going in and talking to the economic development offices. It's engaging with the site selectors that they bring in town. It's engaging with the companies in those regions that are either expanding or new organizations that are moving here, and talking to them about TCC as a whole, talking about not only our student base, engaging with my colleagues if there's certain academic programs they're interested in wanting to know if we have a funnel coming out of for graduations, but also talking to them about that sustainability piece. And that makes all the difference in the story of local economic development. I've done this for a very long time. They don't want to just hear about the tax abatements. They don't want to just hear about how the state can provide money. They want to talk about, if I move here, if I expand here, am I going to have a workforce? And the community college is a key component to that. We should be the workforce solutions provider for this county, for all of these businesses that are here. And that's what those conversations are about. The Center for Learning and Development. We went under major construction, as you all know. I think most of you have been there. It's a 35,000 square foot center now where both myself and my team are located. We are conducting most of our trainings and facilitation and coaching engagements there now. We have a lot of clients coming in. Hillwood has become a wonderful partner for us out there. They have been hosting a lot of events. It is also rental space now. We have started to earn income off of the Center for Learning and Development. Again, this is a part where we are now becoming revenue generating with the intention of taking that money, bringing it back to the college to invest in other programs that serve our employers and our students. The Everyday Entrepreneur Venture Fund. I know Lourdes Ramboa and I were here not too long ago. We spoke to you a little bit about the EEVF program. This started about 1.5 years ago. We originally had 26 applicants. We ended up funding 9 individuals. This program just closed out last month. It's a 12-month commitment from these individuals where they receive customized education. They also receive mentorship, as well as they have received seed funding. We just closed out the application process for cohort 2. I am happy to say that we had a 23% increase in applicants this year. That means we had 32 over 26, if you do the math, but I'm happy because we had more than what we had last year. And we are getting ready to launch this program on May 1st. And again, it'll be another 12-month commitment, and we will have a third cohort that will start in the fall. And we do have a funding committee that includes local chamber presidents, includes executives from the area, as well as small business owners. The Workforce Lens podcast. Has anybody listened? So for the past 1.5 years, I just finished recording episode number 13. And the Workforce Lens podcast, what is it? It's me interviewing local CEOs and executives from companies talking to them about their workforce. In particular, I've had a number of companies who have just recently moved to North Texas. I had one that moved here from Illinois, another that moved here from Georgia. Some are relocating their regional headquarters, others are locating their headquarters here. And it's really about a conversation about why North Texas, why Tarrant County, and how are things going, and how can we assist you. And so I would please encourage you to listen to those when you have an opportunity.
Shannon, do you mind mentioning where you conduct these podcasts?
Sure, I
Please.
record them in the studio at Northeast Campus, sure. And work with a wonderful staff over there. So I'll give a shout out to Daryl and Patrick.
Thank you.
The Lens magazine, you have all received the 3 editions. We have now officially completed 1-year cycle. The Lens magazine is a little bit different than probably anything that you've experienced before. The purpose of the Lens, our target audience right now is a distribution of 15,000 in Tarrant County. A little bit in Dallas, some in southern Denton. But the target market for this is CEOs and executives. It is local economic development offices. It's households over 250,000. I plan out all of the articles in this magazine. I have journalists from all over the country that I am working with who come from People magazine, Time magazine, Sports Illustrated, that I am working with us on this magazine. And it is about having a CEO sit down and look at this. And again, look at things differently from a workforce perspective. What is the number one asset of our organizations? It's our people. And so getting them to think things about leadership, looking at learning and development and training as an investment versus a cost, looking at how, our students are coming out of TCC. They're not just coming out to get an associate's degree. They're coming here to get a job that's going to change the trajectory of their life and their future. And it's getting them to become employed by our local employers so they stay here. And, yesterday we were at Southeast for the groundbreaking, and we all heard the last student from student government. And she was awesome, and I talked to her at the reception. And one of the things she was talking about was how she didn't really know anyone. She got involved in student government, and she was very inclusive as to the fact that she had a group of people who were Jewish, they were Muslim, they were LGBT, and they came from diverse backgrounds, but they all came together. And so this magazine also focuses on a lot of topics about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and getting companies to recognize they need to provide career paths. They need to have inclusive environments. They need to value their people. And so that's what this is about. It's about getting them to think a little bit differently. It's not just about churn and burn and hiring people. It's about valuing the people where they are. So that's the intention of this. The last edition, we also started promoting for advertisers. In the bottom of the slide, you will see we got 2 advertisers the first round out. Hillwood, promoting their Mobility Innovation Zone, and the City of Mansfield Economic Development Office. And we have a number of companies who are ready to start promoting in the next edition. So again, bringing in revenue to help pay for the cost of the magazine as well. Here is a list of recent speaking engagements, some upcoming. I just spoke to the City of Saginaw Local Business Forum for their Economic Development Office. I am going to be speaking to the North Texas Commission here soon, where I'll be a panelist with Dr. Cullum Clark, who is with the Bush Institute at SMU. And there's been a number of other engagements that I've spoke in the past couple of years. But at the bottom then, and included in your packet today, there are a number of articles where I've highlighted the work of Corporate Solutions of TCC that you may have not seen. And so look forward to you taking a look at that. I also have an article in there. Last November, I'm from Ohio. I was inducted into my Alumni Hall of Fame because I, too, am a community college graduate. And so there's an article about that, talking about the work that I've done, helping other students and serving as a mentor to students who also come from community colleges. So if there's any question on those, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. So why is this work important? From an economic development standpoint, I just wanted to highlight a few quick things here today from the perspective of City of Fort Worth, North Texas, and also Alliance. We are the 12th largest U.S. city. We have a higher percentage increase right now of any American city bringing in new employers. And so every single day, going out, talking to employers, I'm getting phone calls from a local economic development to talk to companies who are inquiring about coming to this area. It's imperative. That's another area where I could use your assistance. I would like to be called more to talk on behalf of TCC. So if you're out and about and you're engaging with local economic development, please tell them this story, because it is a good story, and we can create some really great narratives in helping companies come here and expand here and stay here, and helping our students stay here to become great citizens of the area and to be able to change the trajectory of their life and their families for years to come. North Texas, I have been very heavily involved with the North Texas Commission and working with North Texas and just a lot of the companies in the area. You know, we're the second strongest job center in the U.S. right now for jobs like tech jobs, and learning more information about companies that are coming here from supply chain logistics to autonomous vehicles. Hillwood alone has, out of Alliance, we have 6 autonomous trucking companies who just recently came to town. We have electric vehicle companies that I'm talking with. And those are things that we don't necessarily have all of the curriculum on. So those are instances where I'm coming back to my colleagues, I'm coming back to the cabinet. These are the things that we need to look at. Those companies do this work every single day. We don't. This is why it's so important that we need to align with businesses to make sure that we are on target for what those companies that are coming here need a workforce now, but also what kind of workforce they're going to need. We need to align with them. We need to work with them. And so that's, again, value bringing back to the college of how we can engage with local business and industry to have our students employed on the other side. And lastly, Alliance. Alliance is booming. And right now they have 559 companies. I am very thankful to Hillwood and their executive team. Every single day I am engaged with them in some fashion or form, talking to employers that are moving there or across Tarrant County and helping them to talk about TCC and filling their pipeline and sustaining it for the long term. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what's been accomplished over the past couple of years and the direction that we are trying to head, because I think it's going to bring great value to our local economy. It's going to bring great value to our citizens, our employers, and to the college. Questions?
Very quick question, and you don't have to answer it right now. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing it with us. If there are specific communities or cities or chambers or economic development corporations that you would like to strengthen relationships with, would you let us know?
Yes. I have a list.
You might have seen in the picture that I attended the Saginaw Economic Development team meeting, and Shannon is a rock star in presenting this information to people. It was sort of like what she told us. So I recommend, this is very important, I think that she gives us groups that she would like for us to try to get her into. For example, I think the Fort Worth Rotary, the Downtown Rotary Club is very well attended, and it's got a very diverse group of people in it. And I intend to try to get you, I'm going to get you into the Fort Worth Downtown Rotary Club, and there are other groups. So I think it's very important that we send Shannon out there to project the good news.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, I would just observe that I agree with Mr. Greenhill. I was very impressed with the Lens magazine, or with the several editions of the Lens magazine, and I believe you have that in digital form as well.
Yes, that's correct.
I would urge you to develop a strategy on how to distribute the magazine electronically, even to the people who may get it in the mail, frankly. I don't know how everybody else is, but I seem to get, I get so much stuff now. For a guy that spent a career in the printing business, it's hard to turn away from a printed magazine, but it's just a lot easier sometimes to look at it that way. The articles that are in it are informative. They're good, solid, thought-provoking articles, and I really think it's well done.
Thank you.
I applaud that. I would echo what Bill just said about getting this message out. One of my frustrations, I've been on this board now nearly 3 years and probably ramped up my attention to TCC a little more than 3 years ago. And we've got here the most underappreciated asset this community has. And by community, I'm talking about Fort Worth, Tarrant County, but beyond that, the surrounding counties. This is a big deal, and we just haven't told our story the way we need to. And it's fascinating to me. The college has a great reputation, no doubt about that. When you talk to people about TCC, the response is very positive, but they don't know a whole lot about it. They don't understand the breadth of services that are being offered here and the career paths that are available to people. We've just got to punch and punch and punch and push all that.
I just want to say thank you. Appreciate the presentation. It was a good appreciation for it. When I started back in 1998 working at the college, I worked in continuing education, workforce development. And that is a lot of what we did. I was the GED, ESL, and adult basic education instructor for them. But the rest of the people that worked in that department, that Gladys Emerson was the assistant dean over it, ran it for about 20-something years on completely soft money with no layoffs. That's what they did, was went out and engaged corporations and bring back skills that needed to be developed. And when we were in the went to the legislative summit, that's one of the things that we talked to our legislators about, the importance of making it possible for us to do economic development through workforce training and helping them to develop the skills that they need for their employees, because we have a plethora of opportunities and teachings, and we can develop programs quickly if we find out what their needs are, to develop a workforce that would meet their needs. And so I think this is really an area that we really should be pushing from all points as we meet people in the community, and more people meet business owners than a lot of us do. And the other thing I was interested in, you said Mount Olive Baptist Church as one of your customers.
Yes.
I was interested in finding, what was that experience? What did you do for them?
They needed some added computer skills for their front office, and so we did a number of Excel and Word programs for them. They didn't need a full-blown certificate or a full-blown come back and get an associate's degree. They just needed enough help to get them over some humps that they needed for their front office staff. So we customized a program specifically for their office staff.
I need Excel. I can't do it.
Okay, we can help you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions or comments? Thank you all. These have been really good comments for Shannon.
That I have is that I think the work that you're doing with the top level of executives is critically important. When you talk to people, many families across Tarrant County have personal experiences, and their students have personal experiences that have been life-changing for them and their families with the students. What we have to acknowledge is that many of the top level executive companies are imported into Tarrant County, and some stay a little while and some don't. But it's important that we share the story with those people and immediately get them away, bring them up to speed about what the options are and how we can help, so that they address it more from that level. So I think that's critically important, and I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been a benefit of the podcast, is engaging with those folks in particular.
Thank you so much, Shannon. This has been really informative. We've had some really good points here that you've brought up. One of the things I wanted to just mention, we have our demographics are just evolving, right, over the North Texas particularly, and the projections are that we're going to continue to grow. So at some point, we could talk about maybe, Dr. LeBlanc, of maybe addressing, what that's going to look like, right, for the future needs of the future workforce. A lot of the young people are very entrepreneurial. There's other people that are choosing to go, that have been working in careers for a very long time, and they're choosing to do something else. So maybe we can hear about what we're going to do, what those strategies are around that, and in particular, how the board can help you in those efforts, right? So there might be some areas that low-hanging fruit, I refer to that a lot, that maybe we're really trying to target. I think the ideas that we've talked about here, maybe going to the Rotaries, reaching out to the CEOs, engaging us, letting us know what those are. Maybe at some point we can talk a little bit more about that during a work session. So, because we're here to help. We want to make sure that we're collaborating and helping in this effort, because I think this is very, very important work that we're doing. And also getting it out to the other folks, because everybody, each one of these presidents and the cabinet members are all talking in front of other groups, and we need to make sure that we're all helping one another, right, the team, and lifting the team. So as we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about the allied health programs, we're talking about the police force, things like that, that we're talking about, this is something else that we offer as well, just to kind of get the word out there. So just some thoughts. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It was
All right,
excellent.
thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
comments? Perfect. Thank
So,
you.
One thing that I did want to point out, it's a team effort. So we appreciate Shannon taking the lead, and of course that was intentional for her to take the
Yes.
lead. We were restructured for that to happen. I do want to point out that the presidents are very engaged. She does work in concert with the presidents and the deans, because yes, there are pieces that you heard about that are critical to the business community that perhaps we had not done as well as we could have. But there are lots of things in the workforce, technical programs, that then the campuses need to take it and run, because then they have to serve a larger population. So it really is a team effort. What we've not done very well in recent years, and Shannon's addressing that, is telling the story to people of what we can do. The other piece that we kind of put pause to was the review of programs, which I mentioned earlier, and the need for that to happen, so that if there is a program that's obsolete, put that to rest and bring a new program along. So this is all really important work, and it's going to take the whole team, everybody working together to make it happen. And I appreciate that Shannon is sharing information with the presidents, with the vice presidents, the deans, so that we can continue the work, because this place is huge.
It is. Great job. Great job. Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon. Very good.
So you learned about the corporate, the overall economic development, big picture. Now we're going to hone in on Tarrant County College. Just to review, because we do have a couple of new board members. And in 1965 is when we started Tarrant County Junior College. Some of you heard about it yesterday at the Southeast Campus celebration. That was very nice. And of course, in 2007, the name was changed to Tarrant County College. In any case, it is a community college, and we're very clear about that. Throughout the history of Tarrant County College, each chancellor has brought needed change and ensured that the college was in a better place. So there was always disruption. There was always ups and downs. At the end of the day, it did bring needed change to the college, which allowed the college to reinvent itself and to stay relevant. So that's an important piece to remember. In recent years, we had charrettes that allowed us to hear from the whole college community. And we, as a result of all those charrettes, we were able to identify a vision, which was, and I'll quote, TCC would be a nationally recognized student-centric learning institution regionally responsible to the educational and workforce needs of the community. And this is important because it's linked to the conversation we just had with Shannon. The 3 goals and 8 principles which evolved from that, and you have the visual aids, so spoke to the direction that we were going to take. And in all of that work, we've involved hundreds of employees that are serving at different levels of the college. And at each level, we've been able to nurture the leadership development. So Shannon Bryant talked about the need for leadership development in the business and industry. We recognize that as well. So we've been working on those pieces. And so students are our why, and we talk about it all the time. Dr. Morrison, you always remind us to go back to connect the dots back to the students, and we do that strategically now and in our operational work. So I wanted to give you that big picture overview in preparation for the discussion on enrollment trends. And Holly Stovall is, she works in our Office of Research. And Holly, you'll give us your fancy title. The point is, Holly, we impose on Holly a lot, and more so today than ever before, because we're using data to inform us on everything that we are doing. So Holly, enrollment trends.
Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. As Dr. LeBlanc said, I'm here representing the Office of Institutional Research, and I've been with Tarrant County for almost 10 years now. So I wanted to start with enrollment trends and really put the last 2 years in context for you. We've heard the word unprecedented thrown around a lot lately, but I think it's fair that I can actually say that here. And that's because if you look at our last 2 fall head counts, we've had the largest and 3rd largest decrease that we've ever observed here at TCC. So if you look back over the last decade, from about 2010 fall to 2019 fall, we could consistently say that we served about 50,000 students each fall. And we reached an all-time high in 2017 fall of 53,000 students. But then we come to 2020 fall, and we have a decrease from the prior fall of 8%. And that 8% decrease in headcount is in line with both state and national trends. However, for 21 fall, we decreased by about 13%. And unfortunately, that's quite a bit higher than state and national trends. So collectively for the fall, from our all-time high in 2017 of 53,000 to our most recent fall headcount, we have a 23% decrease. Now, as we move to the next slide showing our spring story, it starts off pretty similarly. If we look over the last decade for our spring head counts, it's been fairly consistent. It's ranged from about 46,000 to about 49,000. And we reached an all-time high for our spring head count of 49,000 in 2018 spring. Then in 2021 spring, which was our first spring fully in the pandemic, we had that same 8% decrease. But here's where the story starts to change. If we look at 22 spring, we're hopefully seeing that maybe we're turning a corner and we can start to see an enrollment in headcount. And that's because the decrease for 22 spring was only 2%. But more than that, if we look at the next slide, for only the second time in history, our spring headcount is actually higher than our fall headcount. Next, we'll take a look at our continuing ed enrollments. And for our continuing ed enrollment, we're looking from 2016-17 to 2020-21, and our headcount decreased by about 50%, and that was about 26,000 students to about 12,000 students. And with that line graph, it may be a little hard to tell since we're collapsing this over academic year of the impact of the pandemic. So what you're seeing on the right is that broken up by fall, winter, and then by spring, summer. And that really kind of confirms when you look at it that way, that headcount and course enrollment had been fairly stable, and then the pandemic hits and we see the result. Let's dig a little deeper in the continuing ed and look at a few of the programs within continuing ed. First one is College for Kids, and pre-pandemic, this program served about 2,000 students each summer. And then for senior ed, pre-pandemic, it served about 2,000 people each academic year. Look at a few more programs. For our ESL program, it was serving about a few hundred students each academic year. GED had a high of 1,500 students in 2017-2018. And then lastly, on our continuing ed programs, our firefighting program has been serving about 3,000 students each year, and our police program has been serving on the CE side about 2,000 students each academic year. Okay, from here we'll move into our progression trends. So our hope is that when we take a look at our fall students and watch what's happened to them 1 year later, that one of two things has happened. Either that student has been retained at TCC or at another institution, or that student has graduated from either TCC or another institution. And collectively, we're going to call that the progression metric. So historically here for the last 5 years, what we're seeing is that 7 in 10 students, when we watch them a year later, has either been retained at TCC or another institution or graduated from TCC or another institution. And for our degrees and certificates, we've seen almost a 20% increase from 2014-2015 to 2020-21. Now we'll look at some of our subpopulations, and we're going to start with one of our larger subpopulations, which is our dual credit and early collegiate high school students. And from 2020 fall to 2021 fall, this particular population dropped by about 13%, and you can see that's going to be due to our dual credit decrease. However, with that said, this population of dual credit and early collegiate high school students has continued to represent about 20% of our entire student population in the falls. If you look at their success rates, we did see that they dropped a little in 2020 fall, but they've returned to their historic high of roughly 90% historically for dual credit and about 80 to 85% success for our early collegiate high school. So both groups have a very high success rate. On this slide, we're seeing our transfer success for our first time in college students. And if we look 3 years out for our first time in college students, we see about 15% of them have transferred to a 4-year institution. And among those that have transferred, we see that about 20% had also earned an associate degree or certificate at TCC. And for our most popular schools, if we look at the students who have transferred within 3 years, about 50% have gone on to UTA or UNT. Now, if we look 6 years out, we're going to see that about 11% have earned their bachelor's degree in 6 years. And of those who've earned their bachelor's degree in 6 years, about 42% have earned an associate degree or certificate at TCC. Okay. On our next slide, we're going to take a look at our technical students, and that's about 8,000 students each fall term. For this group, we're going to define our progression metric as being either retained at TCC or graduated from TCC. And for the past 5 years, we've had almost 6 in 10 of our technical students progress at TCC. And lastly, we'll take a quick look at our developmental education students. And as of this fall, if our developmental education students enroll in math or English, they're going to be co-enrolled in either NCBO or a DevEd course alongside the college level class. And for our math, our college algebra there on the left, we have a success rate that ranged from about 45 to 60%. And for English, it's ranged from about 55 to 70%. And with that, I know I've talked through a lot of data, so we'll stop and see if there are any questions at this point.
So you might want to explain the co-requisite and how we've made those transitions from developmental ed standalone to the co-requisite.
Right. So in 2018 fall is when this process started. And what we now see is that the state is mandating that if a student is TSI liable and they come to take a math class or English class, then they're going to be co-enrolled not only in the college level course, but also some support, which would either be through a developmental course or a NCBO. So another acronym here. So that's a non-course based offering. So it could be supported either by, say, a 1 hour additional course or a 3 hour additional course as support. So there's a couple of different models that both the math and English have tried, pairing with both 1 hour and 3 hour.
Can we get an explanation of how we help support those students financially?
Did you hear the question? I don't think she heard the question.
Right. How do we support those students financially? I'm not sure. So there is financial aid. You're talking about the developmental piece.
Yeah, historically, developmental classes don't receive standard financial aid, correct?
That's correct.
So with the change, is there a bridge? Or have we taken independent steps to support those students? Or have we looked at that?
I'll be honest with you. Right this minute, I don't know that we have looked into that. And I'll need to find out if they're taking a co-requisite course, so regular English course with the developmental, how much of that is covered by financial aid and how much the students have to pay. By law, you can't use financial aid for the developmental ed, but we have the eliminating barriers and we have other funding, and I'll just need to get back to you on that. That's a good question.
Thank you for that. And so my hope would be that we use our creativity, ingenuity, and resourcefulness to help those students with some form of financial aid, because they need to help the most.
Yeah.
And I think it's incumbent on us to find ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if it means we don't want to break the law, but we can take on the task of changing the law if it needs to be changed. And so if we don't feel we can do it within our normal thinking capacity and resources we have, then we might need to take another step.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can you explain how you're following these students? You said that you were following them to UTA and UNT. How are you following them?
Yes, through the National Student Clearinghouse database, we can take a look to see where our students have ended up. So that'll tell us whether or not they've ended up at a four-year institution and if they've earned a degree at that four-year institution. So it's a great database that allows us to really track our students fairly well.
And can you answer another question? I noticed that through all this, the numbers have gone down, and then some of them are trying to tick back up. What are we doing to improve those numbers?
So, yes, so Dr. LeBlanc is going to speak to that.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you for the details, especially on continuing education. I wanted to make sure that I understood clearly what looks like a very good news story. While we're seeing decreases across a number of continuing education programs it looks like there's a significant increase in the firefighting and police programs. And I wondered if you knew if that had kind of leveled off, or if it looks like it's continuing to increase.
So we would want to speak to those programs to see if they have some thoughts on why that might have increased, if they've offered more courses, or what that looks like for their future.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead,
Yes.
Mr. Hornsby.
With looking at the decrease in continuing education enrollment, how much of that decrease has to do with the structure change where they moved GED, ESL to the credit side of the house? How much of that has impacted that change?
It looks like, so there were two thoughts we had, which one was what you spoke to, was that some structure changes have happened, but then also the pandemic. And that's why we showed that one graphic looking at the fall, winter, as well as the spring, summer. And it looks like most of the decrease can be explained by the pandemic because the head counts had been fairly stable prior to that change. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good question. When the non-credit workforce programs were moved under the credit, the intent was for them to work in concert, increase the collaboration, and perhaps a student could start with the non-credit coursework, but then continue in getting a certificate in the credit and an associate degree. There is a level of learning that had to take place as that transition was made, but the biggest impact was the pandemic, and we need to work on that, not only in terms of maybe adding more to the non-credit, but also in terms of marketing and letting people know that we are doing these things. That's a good question.
Yes.
My current experiences frequently, in fact, almost every day, take me into the medical arena. And I've encountered significant numbers of persons who have their need for a GED to move up and move forward in that professional ladder. And at the same time, vicariously, I think I've noticed a lack of focus or advertisement on GED and basic. So I see a need to increase, make it easier for those who have that need to access entry into that program. However that needs to happen. The other thing I want to talk about is commitment. So when people come from the community and they start, their first level of engagement is in GED and basic ed, they probably have that commitment and value to that population. When people have always been successful in their academics and their level of engagement has been at the higher academic level, they may not have the patience that might be required to address that population. I think that's a suggestion, an area that merits attention.
When they move those programs under the credit side, so those programs are no longer free? The GED and ESL programs?
So we have different programs. We do have programs that we call high school equivalency now that are funded by the state that Jennifer Hawkins is managing. Those continue to be available. It's the HSC and ESL that are paid for through other funds, and that's by Jennifer Hawkins. What was moved to the non-credit academic side was the ESOL and the more advanced courses. So we'll need to prepare a whole presentation for you to explain how we really haven't done away with anything, and Jennifer Hawkins continues to manage those, but it is complicated because some of those are paid for out of grant dollars. Some of them are more advanced, and we're asking for tuition. And we did make a commitment if we ran out of money, grant dollars, for the population that needed it on the very basic fundamental piece, that we would find an avenue to support them. We haven't gotten there yet. I've asked Jennifer multiple times, have we ever reached a point where we ran out of those funds? And the answer has been no. So it's back to connecting to those communities and making sure that they're aware that we offer these services. It's more that than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because I didn't know that there was still a free component for the GED and the ESL
Yes,
classes. What was communicated to me just by people that were doing it was that it was now on the credit side of the house. Credit to me means pay.
Right.
Well, because that's my misunderstanding. And that was prior to me coming on the board.
Yes,
having those understandings, because when I used to teach those classes, it was all Carl Perkins money that we used.
There are other dollars. There are grant dollars that are available. And I don't know all the details as to the restructuring, but in the restructuring, we moved some of those responsibilities under Jennifer Hawkins and her staff, whereas before it was managed by a lot of different people, and those different people may be doing something else, and they are the ones that might have misunderstood what it was we were doing. So we need to make sure that we're clear on that piece.
Ms. Hawkins what's her title?
She is educational outreach. We've changed the titles. I apologize. So thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
This was really good dialogue. Thank you for your questions and clarifications. It looks like we we'll have some subsequent presentations on that. Mm-hmm. You bring up a very good point, because again, that's something that we need to get our message out of the wonderful programs that we have, and that these programs are available at no cost to folks. So we need to make sure we get that message out. Just want to ask Dr. LeBlanc, maybe we evaluate how frequently we can have Ms. Stovall come in and talk about this data, just to give us an update and make that a permanent, inclusion in our agendas if we can, just so we could be tracking that data. Yes. Okay, thank you. That was very informative. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
So Ms. Wood asked the question about what are we doing, how are we addressing the enrollment piece. So when I mentioned earlier the 3 goals and 8 principles, and you looked at the enrollment trends that were just presented. So that information led to us deciding that our focus needed to be recruitment and retention of students. And we have worked very, very hard on all of the principal items. Stephanie Hill, you met her last night. She has been leading the effort to pull together all the ideation that's taken place over the 6 years and start transitioning that to operational. So as she's done that, we have pulled from it the action items that are related to the recruitment and retention of students, because that's really where our focus needs to be. And so you noticed in Holly's presentation that for spring 2022, the enrollments were slightly higher than in the fall. That didn't happen by accident. That took an inordinate amount of effort on the part of people across the college. And that would be our first slide in looking at the strategic direction. So the 3GAP is about translating our why in practice, and it's about student success, access, and providing opportunities for growth through higher education. So this is a little bit different from what we prepared, but that's okay, I guess. The slides? Okay. We'll make it work. So the visible results and outcomes, we hope to bring more information to you in terms of the outcomes of all the extra effort that's going into recruitment and retention. And we're looking at our priorities there for 2022, and it should be 2022, 2023, student recruitment, student retention, and employee experience. The employee experience is important because clearly when people can't wait to get to work, they're going to put more energy and more effort into supporting our students and so forth. So the next slide speaks to advancing student success. I hope, yep. So as we pulled the different items from the 3GAP, these are the items that focus on recruitment and retention that we will be working on this next year. And you can see that each one of the principals is fully engaged in this endeavor. Advising and student-ready culture would be the student experience, which is a fancy term for recruitment and onboarding of students. College access and community outreach with the high schools. There's a lot more going on. Bill Coppola supports the high school and educational partnerships, and it's bigger than that. However, that's a focus that we will take. The schedule development and operations protocols, which have to do with the scheduling, facilities, and utilization principle. The schedule of classes really is extremely important. If a student wants to take more than 2 courses, be able to take a full load, they need to be able to look at a schedule that allows them to do that. And that involves an incredible amount of work, given our students not only attend one campus, but often 2 and 3 campuses. We work on physical spaces, the workspace environments, student basic needs. The student basic needs under integrated student success model really speaks to the retention of students, and that's where you will see eliminating barriers, child care, and other services that give support to the students outside of the classroom. We will look at the learning assistance, which is a fancy term for learning commons or library, but it's bigger than libraries. It now involves the science centers, math centers, and in other areas where students can receive additional support. So we talked earlier about the developmental ed students and others. If they take advantage of what we offer in the writing center, the math center, learning centers, they would really benefit greatly. Not all of the students take advantage of those services. Not all feel they have time to take advantage of those services. So we are engaging the faculty a little bit more in having them encourage the students to go to those learning centers. And it's all under the Learning Commons category. We also need consistency in naming and branding, and that's obviously part of the marketing that we've been talking about. We need to continue working on the pedagogy, so Zarina leads that effort, and it's quite amazing the work that's been accomplished by faculty and the professional development that's taken place. There's more that needs to take place. And last night you met Tia Cole and Shawanda Riley, 2 faculty members that represent the faculty at Tarrant County College, but also have been heavily involved in all of the professional development that's available to the faculty and in developing it. So it's important work. And then the practicums, which is the integrated instructional learning environment as well, which is critical to the students and the experience that they have.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Several months ago, the chancellor said that we had some discussions with the Austin Housing Finance Corporation for child care development.
Yes.
I think on the South Campus. Has that been? Are we still working on that?
We are. The intent was to start with Northwest and South Campus, and then look at the possibilities for the other campuses. And so we are in conversation with Kara Waddell and others to look at the possibilities. We want to take advantage of federal dollars and other dollars that are coming through. And so that's work in progress. And I know facilities are preparing for that as well. So
I agree with Trustee Morrison that child care is critical. It's absolutely critical. I know that's very, very difficult because the facilities around are few in between, but I think we really need to work on that.
agreed. And of course, we still have the C Campus grant that is available. The restrictions on the grant are such that it makes it more difficult for students to get the child care that they need. And so having the child care available on the campuses will be a huge sea change for us, and a needed one.
I have a question. This goes back to registration. I believe it was last fall I talked about that a lot of my constituents were having problems registering their children for classes, and we talked about maybe some new things we could do to help that process along so it'd be easier. Have we done anything in regard to that? Because I think that might help boost these enrollments if they can actually get online and enroll, because I had some questions about that.
Yes, we have, and I will share also, I think there's another slide coming up called Mitigating Enrollment Decline, and it's the next one. Who's managing the slides? Keep going. That one. So I know, she's amazing. She has ESP. So you're correct, and I have neighbors that would call me, we can't get our kid in the classes, or the university, a lot in the summer especially, we have a lot of students that come back from the area universities, and they want to take courses at TCC, and there were glitches with the web registration, and we worked on trying to fix those. And we continue to. That's always work in progress. It never ends, unfortunately. It may end at one point. We keep hearing about the ERP that's going to save us all. But anyway, in the meantime, we need to work with what we have. But the campuses and folks at district worked extremely hard this past year in order to address some of the enrollment declines. And we augmented campus outreach. We conducted student calls. We actually had students making phone calls, staff making phone calls to individuals. If you haven't registered, we noticed you filled out an application and you didn't register. What do you need from us to support your efforts? That went very well. We adjusted deregistration practice. We used to have a deregistration that was frequent, and we would lose students, and then we'd have to enroll them again. They would get dropped on a Tuesday, and then Wednesday we would see them again trying to get registered, and then at that point they might not have gotten the schedule that they needed, so they would lose classes. We also used HERF grant money. We informed students of this opportunity, so if they were registered, we could support them better with HERF funds. We increased the faculty participation in communicating with students, and that was really important. That's a piece. Faculty are extremely important on every level, but the piece related to recruitment, we have in recent years neglected a little bit, and now we're engaging them more. And they're really where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. They're right there with them, and so they play a critical role. And then we expanded the schedule of course offerings. So we gave permission for every section that was closed. If there were students trying to register in that section, we would increase the number. And then we could figure out, did we need to bring in another faculty member and split it, or how would we work that? We implemented strategies like that at the time of registration so decisions could be made quickly, and that was helpful. We also, Holly didn't share today, but we conduct multiple surveys of our students, asking them what is convenient for them in terms of a schedule of classes, and when would they be able to come to class and so forth. Using that information, we've made adjustments to the schedule of classes. So all of these pieces are related, but the extra effort in terms of calling students, not getting them deregistered and then registering them again, all those efforts played a huge role in increasing slightly the numbers of students.
So I have one more question along those lines. Is there a number or any way like a parent or a student could call in and like if they can't register and they're having an issue, is there a specific number they can call to get a live person? Is there anything like that? Because I know that's my frustration. I need to talk to somebody live, like
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes,
So.
there is, and we need to check to make sure that that's working, because we also have advisors that are on call. We have other staff that are in a call center. Yes, and yeah.
Could you talk a minute about adjusted deregistration practice? What's deregistration and how does that occur? When does it occur?
So I don't know if I have. You can speak the down and dirty. Let me say this: we do allow students to register without paying.
Okay.
And they're given a certain amount of time in which to pay their tuition. When they don't pay within that time frame, we drop them from registration, and those slots open for others to register. We did.
That would be after the course starts?
No. This is before we start courses. And Susan, so this is a collaborative effort between the business office, the registrars. It's a huge endeavor, but we do have a schedule for when we drop the students for no payment, and then how we address it afterward.
That's right. So essentially, students are able to sign up for payment plans with as little as 5% down, essentially. And so when those payment due dates occur, and it can be 4 of them leading up to the start of the semester, we would deregister people who had not paid on the due date. And it's a little bit of a mixed blessing, I guess, because it does open up slots for other students who may be trying to get into courses. And so, but I think what we figured out is that we were doing it too frequently, and it was creating, it was creating work for students who really intended to attend, And so it's creating work for staff as well to get them re-registered. And so we have condensed that down to fewer events and hopefully better notification about it being upcoming. So it's a balancing act of managing all of their accounts and helping them be responsible, but also making sure that we aren't creating undue work and burden on students as well as on staff who are there to support them. So
It means dropping the computer, just, if it's not paid,
No.
the computer automatically wipes out the enrollment record.
And starts all over.
Okay.
And they have to start all
Did
over.
I say it right?
Yeah.
You-
At
you may-
midnight, 11:59 PM on a certain night.
No, I get that, okay. And you may address this at some point, but who's leading the mitigation effort in the enrollment? Where does it all come together?
That's a great question because it does involve a lot of individuals. So when we did the mitigation, Stephanie Hale and Dan Lufkin led that effort. With that said, it involved the business office. It involved all of enrollment management, the folks that register the students, and the folks that manage the schedule of classes.
And counseling.
The counselors, the advisors, the vice presidents for academic affairs, the deans, because if the schedule needed to be adjusted, only the deans and the VPAs have the authority to do that. And so it was a huge endeavor, and that's really what it takes to turn this around. It's going to take that much effort every semester to turn it around and serve the students better.
So ultimately, who do you look to? Does this fall in your office, or who do you look to say, we're working on all these different venues? Who's most accountable for this? I'm not trying to pin blame or anything. I'm just trying to understand how are we organized to get the result. Ultimately it's all about results. It's not about the effort. It's about results. And I understand there are multiple arenas that have to be worked in, but how are we driving the process?
Yes.
Who gets up in the morning and says, by golly, it's my job to make that happen today. Here's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you're looking at the team right over there.
Okay.
Stand up, team.
And myself. It really is, it's a team effort because we are that large, and we all need to accept personal responsibility for the students, not only for the recruitment of students, but the retention of students. So this is the other piece. We used to do a good job of bringing them in, and we got used to, really spoiled, at every year we'd have a whole cohort of new students that would come to the college, and we would almost lose the same number of students during the year in retention, but because the students kept coming, no one really worried about it.
Yeah.
Today, that's not happening because we have less students graduating from high school. The population is shifting, and so we need to work harder, not only at recruiting the students, but ensuring that they are staying in class, successfully getting an education, and that's all of us. That's the whole leadership team. That's exactly right, because the vice presidents report to the presidents. Yeah.
Well, it strikes me that we've probably always been satisfied. The numbers appeared to keep growing a little bit, but we're in a very rapidly growing region. And I guess one of my questions is, are we penetrating the market to the degree we ought to be penetrating the market? And I sort of feel like we're undershooting our potential considerably. I don't know. I don't think it's appropriate for me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'd love to hear if any of the presidents have anything you'd like to express about this. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, and I don't have the permission of the president or the acting chancellor. But I'd like to see a little deeper discussion at some point about this. I think it's fundamentally important to the success of Tarrant County College. Is anybody?
We need, Bill can start because he's, yes, and he's the champion for the high, he's the champion for the high schools, but he's also over the educational partnerships. And they can each speak to that eloquently, so they're being shy right now, but
No, I will start.
Bill can start it, and then the others can follow, because they can do that.
Let me make one observation. Sure. I view this board occupies a completely different role from what you all have, but we need to learn from you, and you need to hear what we're hearing from out in the community, what the priorities we bring to the table are, and ideas I may come in or won't work, and I need you to say that won't work, or that's not a complaint, a concern. On the other hand, you might be able to say, well, that's not a concern, but let me tell you what is. And that's the kind of dialogue I think would benefit this board the most, so that we really understand what the challenges are.
And could I pose just a framing question? I'm just going to take Mr. Barr's question.
Sure.
One step further.
Good.
Because we make eye contact a lot. No, and I mean, this really is for anyone. It's for Dr. LeBlanc. It's for any of the presidents. Is there something that we can do to help empower you to either create a position or a structure that helps facilitate that person waking up in the morning? Or is there something else we can do to help you that we have not yet discussed that would, given this, again, unprecedented enrollment challenge, develop a solution that helps the entire college move forward? Because that's what I think we want to do. We want to help empower you develop a solution.
Well, first of all,
yes. So we all get
at
the end of the day. Yeah, it's my head on the platter if we don't work through it. However, and that's true. I mean, I'm acting chancellor, but I'm also executive vice chancellor and provost. And all of these groups are under me. And so at the end of the day, that needs to be said. The presidents, the vice presidents, deans, all those folks play a critical role. And they know and understand the importance of it. What may not have happened in recent years is that folks did not feel as empowered as they needed to be to do what they know what they need to do. If that makes sense.
That's very well put, Dr. LeBlanc. Thank you for the question and giving me an opportunity to address this morning with you all. First of all, you need to know that Dr. LeBlanc, this is really her passion. Coming in as provost, and even when you were president at Northwest, really looking at, there's one thing about getting students in the door, which has been basically the history for the last 50 years at colleges, because the front door is what gets our funding. You're always going on that biennium. But the effort on retaining the students into the next and the follow-up is just as important, but the emphasis, the numbers that come out. In your question, I'm going to try to paraphrase in the question of what you all can do to help. First of all, I think it's very important and it's very exciting to hear that the board is very involved in this part of our job, is to have not just our public face out there, but really the face to the students and what we can do. What the principal work has done over the last years and through ISSM, Student Experience, ILI, all of them have really put an effort into what can we do better to reach the students where they are. That's a very important point, because what we found out through high school principal is that even in dual credit in high schools, every student has a different story. that they're there. I think you heard Dr. Cavazos, those who were at the thing, talking about the early college, high school students, first time in college students, students that did not have a support system, compared to the dual credit students who know they're going to UT Austin, and they're just trying to get some hours out there, which is good, which they should do. One of the, what has happened over the last 2 years since COVID, and we learned this through T3, TARRANT 2 and through, which we put a lot of new initiatives in there, and we saw an 85% retention rates of our 570 students from fall to spring, practices that we're now sharing, is that when COVID hit, not only did students have to stay home to learn, but testing stopped. TSI testing stopped. They had to go online. They weren't ready to put it online. But more importantly, ACT's testing stopped. And UT Austin, for example, and the UT system were allowing students into as freshman students without the SAT scores. So if you look at statistics, you're seeing a big increase in first time in college at the universities. Well, that's going to go back to SAT, and then I think we'll see ours coming back. I think through educational partnerships, what you have approved in the last year was to hire in 5 new directors of educational partnerships. Before, dual credit was kind of handled through the Vice President of Academic Affairs and also through the divisions. But educational partnerships, to shift to that, has a more broader view, because our partnerships are really for the first time, we're seeing a relationship between institutes of higher education, TCC being the foundation of education, business and industry, which we were just talking about earlier, but now government is getting involved. You've seen a lot of cities getting involved. You heard Mayor Ross yesterday talk at this about how involved they are on the continuum of education. If I can ask the board, on behalf of all of us presidents, is telling the story to your counterparts. We don't have access to them unless we're invited to a meeting, is to do that. But they see you as really as a trustee, as a person, as the individuals that are looking at the best interest, not just of the college, but your best interest is of Tarrant County. Mm-hmm. See, we take care of the college. You take care of Tarrant County. And for the county to really grow, and for us to get to that 70% of individuals that need some type of post-secondary degree, where we're at 42% now, we're the ones that can do that. That is slowly starting to happen through a lot of initiatives that are taking place around our different counties. You heard that Mansfield is now being involved with the lens in there. Well, that's an important piece. That's one of our largest ISDs. So not to go on, but this is, I had 2 cups of coffee this morning, so I'll talk. So as we go. But I think we have a great structure that is being developed, and I think Dr. LeBlanc is really putting all the puzzle pieces together. And we're working real well as a team in order to do that. Does that answer your question anyway?
Yeah.
The others may want to add to what Bill is saying.
I think they
because
do.
Each they can, because each one really they're quite passionate about serving the community that their campus is in. I don't know who would like to go next.
Good morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about leveraging the strength of our faculty and the fact that 80% of our students who come to Tarrant County College are part-time, and sometimes and many times the individual that they interface with is their faculty member. So you also heard that we are revving up our efforts in retaining students we currently have and helping those students continue on to the next course and being a little bit more cognizant of the place of the course that they're taking within their educational plan. Many times students don't know. Sometimes they take a course and they're unsure about where is it that they want to be in the following semester. So faculty are ideating and ensuring that they are pretty proactive in connecting with students earlier on, looking at some of the information that our students give through the career service inventory that students complete, and then aligning some of the support that we already have at Tarrant County College and making students be aware of all of the support that they have available. And also having conversations with students about their next step after the course that they're taking, and truly serving as faculty advisors, mentors, and coaches to our students. Earlier, you heard Dr. LeBlanc talk a little bit about our Engaged Learning Institute. Faculty are participating in that institute to learn more about the neuroscience of learning and how to help students stay in the course and complete. So those are some of the strategies that we are implementing more proactively so that we're keeping the students that we have, as opposed to focusing on new students that might not be here the following semester.
Do you think that your typical faculty member recognizes how important that role is?
They do, and like all of us, it's a matter of them understanding what resources are available at the college. We're a huge college. One person doesn't know everything, and part of our effort is to make sure that faculty have the information that they need and that they are aware of all of the comprehensive resources that the college offers in a place where they can access that information. And then sometimes providing them with just-in-time information during the timeline of the semester. Okay.
That's good.
Thank you.
Do it together.
Certainly, and I can dovetail off of the comment that my colleague made as it relates to the classroom experience. To support this in-classroom experience, we certainly have a wealth of resources at the college, and the Learning Commons is primarily focused on a few components of those resources, and that's primarily the library resources, the resources that we have in the library with respect to research assistants, et cetera, but also our academic resources as well. And that becomes a critical component as it relates to retention of students. If you look at the trends nationwide, some of the effort is certainly with recruitment, but other parts of the effort is really focused on, well, how do we keep the students we have? And that's very important when we start looking at ways in which we can systematically keep students engaged and connected to the college. So that's where the Learning Commons comes in. Certainly that occurs within the classroom with the Engaged Learning Institutes and the things that we're doing and leveraging the talent and the expertise of faculty, but we're also leveraging the talents and expertise of those who support students in places like tutoring centers, writing centers, math centers, science centers, et cetera. And under your leadership, certainly with the support and leadership of our acting chancellor, also the provost and executive vice chancellor, I'm naming all your roles right now. right now, we have been in a process of really focusing and framing. And the reason why I use that particular illustration is because we have a wealth of resources. So I can say, thank you, we have resources. But to your point, sometimes our students don't always know about those resources that we have available to them. So we're focusing, framing, and we also want to make sure that our students are having a consistent experience and equitable access to those resources across our division. So that's been the work primarily of the Learning Commons. There are some additional things that we can do, and certainly I don't want to mention those things without articulating them to our acting chancellor first, and I have a meeting with her on Monday. So, so that's the discussion that we'll have. But I'd like to applaud you for your thoughtfulness as it relates to what can you do. But in that space, we have a wealth of resources. It's just a matter of how we're coordinating and how we are enabling the team and the structures that we have to do the work and to do it well. The other piece of that is also in terms of our working with remote learners. We have robust platforms where we can connect students at any time whether they need to connect with a resource or a tutor when they're off campus or when they're on campus, or connect with someone who's on campus, off campus, or what have you. So we have that technology to enable us to continue to support students and their journey at Tarrant County College. So to speak more perhaps about technology, I'll segue into
So one thing that I did mention when we adjusted the schedule of classes, we learned that during the pandemic, people learned how to be students online. A lot of folks that were face-to-face learned how to use the technology and so forth, and then they appreciated the convenience of an online course because it didn't impact their work and so on. They could study and access the information whenever they wanted to. And so our numbers on the TCC Connect online increased significantly, and we needed to adjust the schedule to reflect the student desire to take more classes online. So let Carlos tell that story.
Sure. Good morning,
morning.
board members and acting chancellor. Yeah, if I start in that line, yes, online students' preferences have been, I guess, loudly communicated for all of us, and we have been very grateful for the support of the entire college, but of course, you as well, in terms of how we can serve as many as we can, right? Because the preferences are coming either with ample time or with very little time, right? And many reasons drive that, but we have been able to satisfy pretty much everything that comes to our doors. It is a team effort. Just so you have a glimpse of what it is, we saw an increase in fall of 2021. We have been increasing in the online side of things approximately 10% every year, more or less. Holly can give us more specific details, but that is the number that we entertain. But in the fall, it has been much larger. Between the last day of the fall semester and the first day of the spring semester, we were able to offer additional or make available additional 3,000 seats, simply because the students were asking for those courses. And again, it's our responsibility to ensure that they are properly served there. So that's the adjustment the chancellor is speaking about. If I go back to the mitigation strategies, just wanted to highlight the deregistration that was mentioned and asked before. For the sector of the college that we serve, for example, in the winter semesters, the dereg was creating a situation where we were losing 30% of the students, okay, because of losing that registration. So this decision of eliminating the deregistration has minimized that. So when you have an enrollment of 2,000-3,000 students across the college in the winter semester, which the winter semester is designed to reduce time to degree, is designed to increase completion. It directly impacts 60 by 30 in Texas. So again, for us to minimize the fallout and the challenges for students not to be enrolled in those classes is significant. And we saw that happening very, very quickly, the results, and it was an expedient way for the college to adapt to the circumstances. So that's the part in which we are seeing the benefit.
Right. You might also mention that you have the flexibility with the online programs where you start new courses every week, and that allows people more flexibility, especially those that are working.
Yes, the sector we manage, if you will, we have, bear with me, is 16, 12, 10, 8, 7, 5, and 4 week terms. So, students have a different lane, a different, speed to complete their degrees. The monthly starts that Acting Chancellor is referring to starts every Monday the first Monday of every month for students to start, and they can, manage a lighter load. There is research that justifies that. So those students that learn better in that pace, certainly they are taking advantage of that aspect. But everything else between online and accelerated is what has been helpful for many students this time. Thank you.
So Dan's being shy, but he was also very engaged with the student support services side. So you've heard about the faculty, the schedule, the support that the students get. And he was working with the advisors, counselors. You might share a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just say I think we've heard the word focus a lot, and most recently under Acting Chancellor LeBlanc's leadership we've really started to identify, using data, the needs of our students, and then focused strategies to reach out to those students to meet them where they are, to overcome some of the financial barriers. That was a colossal project. We were on the phone almost nightly just to go from a 10% down payment to a 5% down payment. That then changes all the work within the staff. So the business services staff, they have to adjust overnight. But it's having those collective conversations, learning what the needs are of the students, meeting them where they are, and then addressing those problems through these mitigation efforts. And I think that's what we've done very well with all my colleagues and faculty, getting targeted messages out to faculty to say, share this with your students, internally addressing what those mitigation strategies are. So when a student does make a phone call, regardless of the campus, everyone is responding in the same manner. So it's putting together with Dr. Hill as well, all those strategies, all the communication efforts, so it's consistent across all of our campuses. Not easy work to do, but we've been working collectively and managing all that and meeting our students where they are, addressing many of these issues, and we'll continue to work in that way under Dr. LeBlanc's leadership and with your support. So thank you.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking about my years in the printing business, and I remember when we were trying to sort of change our culture and focus, and we adopted the attitude that everyone in the organization had a sales responsibility. Everyone was responsible for selling. That included the salespeople, but it also included everybody through the whole process, all the way down to whoever delivered the product in the end, literally took it out to the customer's office. If they did a good job, it went a long way. If they did a lousy job, it didn't matter what everybody else upstream had done. So this may be crass, I don't know, but I think we're talking about sales here. And I mean that in the sense of educating people about what the opportunity is and how we can help them. That's really selling and making it easy for people to come and get the education that we're prepared to deliver. So I just think, and I hear this in what y'all are talking about, I think that's very helpful to me. Everybody's in the sales business. You all can clean that up and figure out a better way to say it, but I think all the faculty members need to realize that they play a role in this. And if they're indifferent to the student, you know, I can remember many times after the class going up and talking to a professor. And if that professor is in a hurry and not interested in talking to the student, there's a missed opportunity. So I just think we're all, and I'm willing to say we are involved, we're all in the selling business here. Thank you. I appreciate you all speaking up.
This may be a dumb question for a lot of people. How soon is our engagement with high school students? How soon are they engaged with people from the college? I know juniors and seniors have some level of engagement because the dual credit opportunities that they have. But with regards to being in the face or in the person of college people, how soon are the students around in the different areas? When I was an academic advisor before I became a counselor, one of the things we used to do was talk to the counselors at the high schools and get them to get a contingency of students. And they could be freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and we take pizza. If they may for their lunch. It may be 25 or 30 of them. Well, I don't like that pizza place that's really cheap, but kids do. And we would take pizza, and we would have the opportunity to talk to them and get in their face about college, about going to college, the opportunities to do that, because high school counselors now really do not have the chance.
They don't have a lot.
The squeaky wheel gets the noise. If you have this really successful student that's really always in their face, but they have so many other responsibilities, paperwork, testing, and all that other stuff they get to do, they can't really be an advocate for schools because they have to. And if they do, it's probably for the university rather than the community college. So how early are we making engagement opportunities with our students, our high school students? And that may be something we need to talk about at work. And maybe that'd be something we could do, go out and make presentations or something. I don't know.
That's right. So Bill's dying to answer this one. We do have college access and community outreach. We also have Upward Bound on South Campus only, and we need to apply for that for all of the campuses. But Bill, you and I have been talking about this, so I know you're well versed in this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the question. How soon do we get in? Not soon enough. We're learning right now that we need to get into the middle schools, not the high schools, in order to do that. The students have to pick their endorsements in ninth grade, and on that period, a lot of the students feel like then they're stuck with that, but they need some guidance. What we're doing, I think you see on the slide right up now, Dr. LeBlanc has very well talked about the interest of CACO. That's College Access and Community Outreach. And when you talk with the student experience advising principal as well as the high school principal, that is one of our most effective ways of getting into the high schools. What we experiment with and we're working with right now with T3 and Angela White, who's taken up that with Dr. Clayton. What we're doing now for the Fort Worth high schools is having enrollment clinics on the high school campuses. We have a work team that is starting that. Is because a lot of the counselors, like I said, don't have the time to put the students and the parents through the enrollment process. So we're bringing our folks in to do that. David Jimenez is helping tremendously with that with his group. So getting into the schools, I wish we had a counselor in every high school, an advisor. Like I said, through T3, we went through the TCU CAC, College Access Core, where they do have 5 in Fort Worth, 5 advisors on every high school campus. The college, I think it's called College Access Core, CAC, TCU. It's part of the T3 project with Rainwater Foundation. And what they funded as part of it was they knew they had to get into the high school to talk to these students. So we started so you went from 1,100 to 1 ratio to 120 to 1 ratio of advisors to students. And ended up putting 5, I think there's 55 in Fort Worth right now. We also have CAC advisors spread out throughout entire districts, but they're only in the most needed high schools. Like in Arlington, it's in Bowie High School that has the lowest socioeconomic first-time in college students. They should be in every high school. And so what we're really, and I don't want to talk too much about T3. It's the second one is T3. But when we talk about T3, and that's a whole other presentation, but really we're using T3 as a sandbox to try things, to do it, and with the resource and our staff and faculty and across college. And we're finding things that work and things that don't work. And it really is the students, once they sign that pledge and get in, for us it would be when a student fills out an application, and since the FAFSA is now required in high school, they're now thinking in their mind there's at least a thought about college, and we have to take that seed and say, no, it's not a thought, it's a possibility.
So thank you for that explanation. I have a question for you. Just so, what does the data say that ratio should be? You said it went from 1,200 to 120.
At the high school level?
Yes, and that was my first question. And the second question, is that something that we are funding, or we're collaborating with somebody to fund? Or
That's being funded by the Rainwater Foundation.
Okay, by Rainwater.
Through T3, yes.
Okay. So It's just a matter of getting, so get back to my original question. What is the ratio?
At the high school level, I don't know the number. David's not here. I think
Okay.
there is a number for us, about 800.
I was just,
We can get that.
We can get
Well-
that number. I don't want to throw out a number because
and
then
that's
we'll
fine,
hold us to
because
you,
I was just wondering
you know.
if that seems to be very, if that's a factor
Yeah.
that's, you know, and it
Oh,
sounds
that
like an
is very
important
much being
factor.
addressed here on
Yeah.
the campus. I think we're hiring some more advisors to help with that ratio.
Yes.
High school's different because
Okay.
we need to get into the high school and then pair with the high school counselors.
Okay.
And then they also have ghost centers that we were working with.
So we're exploring that, of how we can do that.
Right,
Better,
so,
okay.
so the T3 and other educational partnerships needs to be a whole other
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing.
presentation.
Okay, I know.
The T3 Tarrant County College has been hugely successful.
Right.
So originally, all the colleges wanted to be a part of T3
Right.
and accept the students as freshmen. They haven't done well, and so they're now saying, the universities are saying, let's just let TCC have the students, the freshman and sophomore years, and then they can transfer to us. And we have data sharing agreements that allow us to exchange information easily, and also for our students and their students to receive information about the different colleges. Like UTA, if a student wants to go to UTA, they get invited to UTA events. They get, so there's a lot of synergy there that we haven't really shared with you, and we knew when we started that they needed to start at TCC.
Yeah.
However, they all wanted them to start at TCU, UTA, UNT. We thought, that's fine. It's always good for people to find out for themselves, and that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah.
And they're good partners. They're good
No,
partners.
they're very good partners, yeah.
But we, you know, really, if we have time for the faculty to speak, we have amazing faculty that take the students wherever they are, and they turn those students into stars, and they turn them into not only college ready, but really individuals that know how to excel in college. And all the universities want our students.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be successful. It's like win-win. And so it's a wonderful story. We
It
just
is.
don't always tell it. But yes,
We're very modest about what we do, and that's one of our faults.
Yeah.
As we sit there and do it. Anything
And,
else?
and you mentioned Upward Bound, and that is just such a valuable opportunity and program. I didn't get to participate in that. Baylor started it after me, but my younger brother got to participate and be a student of Upward Bound. And when I was at the closeout program for, what they call Dr. Thompson's program, that
First choice?
Yeah, first choice program. When I was at the closeout program last year, one of the doctors, a little short lady,
Oh, yeah.
doctor, she was my younger brother's Upward Bound counselor, and she came to me to tell me that. And when I started telling her about my little brother, she knew today. She knew everything about him. She's still in contact with him,
Right.
and knows his career, knows his children, knows that he had just retired, just up to date because of that relationship that they created.
Right.
With them, and it has carried on. So, yeah, as many campuses as we can get those on.
And I don't want to neglect that a very important person who's pulling this together is Dr. Hill, who really has a background in this, who really helped us write Title V, T3, and all that, who really knows how to get into that. So we don't want to ignore her valuable input on this also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. LeBlanc, I was going to ask you, unless anyone else has any other questions, I was going to see if we could, do you have anybody else that you wanted to have us address us, or
so
Tia or Shawanda?
I'm
maybe?
sensitive to, we still have budget and planning calendar, and we've got 30 minutes left.
Very good dialogue.
So we'll invite Tia and Shawanda can give a short piece on the role of faculty, just really short, and then we move on to the others, and we can also have follow-up, Tia,
Yes.
at the April board meeting when we present all the JCC folks. And
good morning.
Good morning.
Tia Cole here, JCC Chair. I started at Northwest Campus. Dr. LeBlanc hired me, and I started in academic foundations. And I'm now at South in the English department. And on the faculty side, I think a couple of things play a big role in enrollment and retention and persistence. It starts with what you talked about, which is relationship building and being available for students. I don't live on this campus, but you would think I do because I'm here all the time. And when I come in, I see the signs that says "You belong here." And working with these communities, I think that is important because it's easy to slip away because life happens. So how do we create community where students are being held accountable, but also someone is checking for them when they're not here? Where are you? Are you okay? Do you need something? Not that they can just disappear and no one notices. When we have those connections in my class, I try to create those communities. I try to get everybody to have a best friend in class. Check on your best friend. How are they doing? Why aren't they here? Do they have the notes? That way, someone is looking, and it's harder for them to fall away, right? So I think that's one of the major ways that we can help with students and continue. And faculty are already doing it, but just thinking about that. The other thing is I work with the Engaged Learning Institute as the program coordinator, and we focus a lot on those retention strategies as well as culturally responsive pedagogy and how are we meeting our students where they are, who they are, without undermining our rigor and our standard, right? Because you're not doing anybody a favor when you're giving them A's for not knowing the material, right? So how do we meet them there and bring them to where we need them to be? So those are the efforts that I have been a part of, or a couple of them, in this effort.
Good morning, President Ayala, Dr. LeBlanc, and board members. My name is Shawanda Riley, and I'm the JCC chair-elect, but I've also been a longtime faculty member on the Northeast Campus, and I have been involved with student organizations as an advisor for Phi Theta Kappa. And one of the things that we have found in the return back to campus is reestablishing community has been one of the significant pieces of getting students to feel like they belong. Like Tia said, that is one of the things they see. They see the branding of "You belong here," but in terms of retention, helping students rebuild that community that they lost, even though they did work remotely, they were doing work virtually, but they lost a great sense of community. And what we found is that coming back to campus, having students re-engage with student organizations, whether it's an honor society or whether it's a student interest group like the Star Wars Club that we had on our campus a few years ago, but it's a way of getting students reconnected and re-engaged, not only with their classmates, but also with faculty, because faculty serve as advisors. And, you know, going back to what one of the board members said about having your faculty members available after class, that's an important piece. We get 10 minutes in between each class time, and in 10 minutes we have to pull our stuff together, make it to the next classroom. But those conversations that we have with students while we're gathering our stuff in the hallway, even before class starts, that's also a way of having students know that we are there for them and that we are a part of the community, and it's an honor to be able to do that. So, any questions?
Do you think our typical faculty member recognizes their role, the opportunity that they have there? And the second part of that is, if there are ideas that can come from the faculty on how to do a better job in supporting that, I would urge you to communicate that to the presidents.
Well, one of the important things that we do as faculty association leaders is that we hear from faculty that are at the ground level on what the needs are of students, whether it's they have an issue with logging into WebAdvisor and finding their classes, or whether it's financial aid issues. And we're able to move that information forward. And Tia knows, where did Tia go? She went back, come back. We're able to move that information forward. And, you know, we've established good enough relationships with our campus leadership where they're open. You know, we're solutions oriented, and they're open, especially right now during this time of the pandemic, where we're trying to figure out what's working, what didn't work, and what's working now. And so to answer your first question, yes, faculty do know that we play an important part, but faculty right now, we're trying to figure out how, in knowing the part that we play, how do we take all of the support and the resources from the district and put those to the use, not just for the students, but for faculty as well.
I would like to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say I am truly honored to meet both of you. I have heard a lot about you, Shawanda.
Okay.
So, and it's good. It's all
Okay.
good.
Oh, thank you.
But one of the things I would like to see, because you do represent the faculty, you represent the instructors, I would like to see an anonymous questionnaire where we board members can get that back on how better we can help the instructors. Because they're always talking to me, and they have very valid concerns. And I've seen the questionnaires in the past, and I've asked this board that we would do that. We would have a third party come in and do a questionnaire on different, and I would be happy to be a part of that, of coming together with questions to ask the faculty, totally anonymous, so that they can be honest and give their honest feedback on what we can do as a board and what the administration can do to serve the faculty, because I think that's a part that we're missing in all of this. We don't hear their concerns. We hear this, we want this for the students, and then up here, we say we want these other things, but we need to know what the faculty needs from us. And so I'm empowering you both to come back and get this, third-party questionnaire so that we can help your instructors, because we're only as good as our instructors. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. The teachers, to me, are very, very important. And if we aren't supporting them, then how are they going to support students? So I applaud both of you for what you do. And please get that information to us. And if you want, contact me. I will be happy to help with the questionnaire. I do this in corporate America. I'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming out. Thank you. Dr. LeBlanc, this was very good dialogue. This was excellent dialogue. And I was taking some notes as we were going along based on the comments from the trustees and then also from the staff, is that maybe we can look at having them come and do individual presentations with having them talk about the faculty perspective, T3, all of those. Maybe we focus on just mitigating, areas, and then we talk about advancements, if you're open to that. Is there anybody else that has any other questions or comments? This is a great dialogue, by the way, and it just reminds me of how wonderful the staff is here and faculty and how passionate everybody is. Appreciate that. Okay, go ahead. How would you like to?
Thank you.
Yes.
So Susan Alanis has a presentation on budget forecasts, process, and workshop dates.
Can we take just maybe a 3-minute break just to everybody? We're just going to take a 3 to 5 minute break real quickly before we continue. If you don't mind, Susan, we're just going to take a small break. get restarted here. I just want to make sure, if we need to go over a little bit, do we have, can we, a few minutes? Is everybody comfortable with that? Just a few minutes, or? How much more time do you think we would need? 20 minutes, half an hour?
Yeah, depending on the questions, I can get through this pretty quickly.
Okay. So how would, we should be out in, to 11, just 11
for
o'clock?
11.
Is that good for most of you? Mr. Greenhill, could that work for you? Okay, Ms. Wood, that could work for you? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. So actually, a lot.
Are you ready for us yet?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we're back in session. Thank you for that brief
So-
break. Go ahead, Ms.
So hopefully I'll
Simmons.
help recover a little bit of time, because a lot of what I'm going to do is lay out future opportunities for more in-depth budget information. But I want to give a quick reminder of the financial resources, just for the newer board members, to remind them what the basis of our revenue is, tell you how we are planning a 5-year forecast to support some of the longer-term endeavors that we have, as well as what our priorities have been for the upcoming budget. So just as a reminder, we have our state appropriation. We're in the second year of the biennium, and so we've got certainty around that. As Mr. Greenhill was just pointing out to me, we enter a new era with the next legislative session where hopefully we'll be able to retain the support that we get here, but that'll be something for us to keep an eye on. We also have our tuition rates, which we've been holding steady for since 2019, and our intent is to do so again next year, and makes us very affordable compared to our peers. And then also just a reminder about our tax base, that we've had substantial increase in the net taxable value even during the pandemic, when we were concerned that there were going to be some changes there. I will point out that we've gotten some preliminary information from the appraisal district just about what's happening with residential property values, and you can see by county what they are saying right now. Now, recall that there's a 10% cap on increases that can be applied to those valuations, but still this shows a very robust market there, which we'll continue to factor in and as we get more information from the appraisal district. So one of the things that we've been doing is, and we've got a model that we've developed, is a 5-year budget forecast strategy, and we'll share more of that with you in June when we're back with you with a broader discussion about the budget. And part of our purpose here is that we've got some substantial things on the horizon with the next tranches of debt, with the ERP project, and so on. And so we want to take a little bit of a longer view in terms of what we think the financial impact will be. We're doing some modeling that's pretty conservative in terms of growth and tax proceeds, but we also know that we've got that's offset by the risk of declining tuition revenue, which you've seen, and we've been able to overcome with some of the HERF funding replacement of those dollars in the last couple of years. But this obviously relates to the whole conversation you just had about recruitment and retention, and making sure that we continue to serve a large student population. There's other things that are sort of protections, I guess, as we move forward, is that we have been making substantial contributions to fund balance in prior years. A lot of conservative budgeting principles baked in. We assume all of our positions are filled. We've been had an operational contingency. We've got money set aside for some of the strategic initiatives coming out of 3GAP, and so on. And a lot of that was intended to prepare us for this point when we were going to start having more debt service that we need to continue to absorb as well. So we also have a substantial fund balance, more so than any organization I've ever been in and most of our peers. And so that will allow us to have some cushion for one-time expenditures like the ERP implementation as well. So that gives us some relief there. One thing I will share with you is, just like last year, we'll have to wrestle with the question. We committed to the voters that we wouldn't increase our tax rate, but even staying at the 13 cents, it becomes a question of whether we are above the no new revenue rate or not. And so we'll be bringing you a lot of data about that as we work through the appraisal rolls this summer. So we'll give you that full analysis in June with the preliminary tax rolls. So some of the key workforce priorities, as has been pointed out over and over today, obviously our workforce is core to our operations and how successful we can be. So we've been working on a number of things that I think are important. These focus a little bit on financial resources, but I'll tell you also we've been engaged heavily. We just launched a leadership program series for the next 8 months for supervisory training, leadership training, leading with humility, coaching, accountability, all those kinds of things that are really important, because it is about what people earn when they're here, but it's also about how they're respected and managed in the organization. So we're doing a lot of things on different fronts. But I'll mention to you here, one of the things that we've been working on is sort of transparency on the and allocation of our workforce. So one of the things that this college has relied on historically is a large, what we called on-call population, which were part-time, temporary staff, but many of them were in positions that had lasted for years and years and years and were in more permanent roles. And so one of the things that we're doing is going through and legitimizing those as authorized positions to make sure we have a lot of clarity around how many positions are allocated to a particular area and what those resource needs are and what the true gaps are. And I'll give you an example. Even as we've been working on advising and counseling and the need to expand that to support our students, one of the things that became clear is that we had a portion of that workforce that were on call that weren't even counted in what resources are available and in the ratio of how many students that they support. And so we've legitimized those positions and so on to start to add clarity to that. So this will help you guys when we come back with you to you with the budget in August, when you'll be able to see a lot more transparency into our true authorized positions. The other thing we're doing is we're working through there has not been a tremendous amount of discipline over the years around our compensation and classification system, so we're working through normalizing and adding consistent job titles so that credentials and pay and those kinds of things start to make more sense across the organization as one college. We are also working on making sure that part-time assignments are because those jobs and the organizational needs are dependent on a part-time role, not for the purpose of just savings in terms of benefits. And so what we've been doing is, as opportunities allow, if full-time jobs or rather than cobbled together part-time jobs is what makes sense, we want to be a high-quality employer, and so we don't want to deprive people of benefits because we've created positions that aren't really for the purpose of needing part-time support. We also, as everybody is facing, we've got a lot of market pressures on pay and internal equity and just the cost of living pressures with inflation that's going on. So we've got a number of deliverables that we owe to you, and we're working on through this process, and that's that true authorized position count, completing an analysis of the attrition trends. That's been slower than one would think, just as you wrestle with all these questions about what is our workforce with this temporary labor and what does that mean in terms of attrition and turnover. And so that's taken more analysis than one would think, but we're working our way through that. And then finally, we've over the years, there have been a number of efforts at a compensation and classification study. That's a big endeavor for an organization. And what we've been doing as of late is working our way through it sort of incrementally. We've focused heavily this year on a lot of admin support positions, again, to normalize those, allocate them correctly, that kind of thing. And so we're sort of trying to bite it off in manageable chunks rather than the whole thing. But very soon, because of the market pressures, we're going to need to work our way through that and make sure that we've got a solid basis for our comp and class system. So other priorities is obviously we've been working to fulfill some of the 3G 8P initiatives that are coming through. We're focused on the ones that contribute to recruitment and retention at this point, and so you'll see some of those things funded in the upcoming budget. Planning for that next tranche of debt, which I'll elaborate on a little bit more here, the ERP implementation, and then the cash funded capital program that we've been telling you will support because of the construction inflation, our delivery of the program. So we're going to, and again, I'll talk to you about this more, but we are planning on bringing to you in May a recommendation to do a debt sale this summer. We also anticipate in May that we're going to bring to you the ERP contract that we've been negotiating with Anthology and a funding strategy around that, not just of the contract itself, but also of the full-time team that we'll be assigning to that project for the delivery. And then finally, we've been working on the master plan for facilities and a 5-year capital plan that will accompany our budget presentation in August. So as far as the summer debt issue, one of the things that has become clear is that obviously the market is pushing us era of rising interest rates to consider what our options are. In an ideal world, we would have issued our entire program last year at our 1.76 true interest cost. But there's time limits on your requirement to spend those proceeds and so on that obviously limited that. But we will be out of the current proceeds by April or May of next year. So we were sort of planning early next year, but in discussions with our financial advisors, we're recommending that we accelerate that. So one of the things that you'll see in your board packet for April is that we're going to go ahead and have a contract to engage bond counsel to help us with a preliminary offering statement. But our expectation is that we would bring the authorization for the sale to you guys in May with a June sale and a June closing. So we toyed a lot with the idea of doing the whole 520.
I think we have a question,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Do I understand you're moving up the schedule on when you're going to do this next sale?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because of the changing market.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And if the market changes again, it's more favorable, what happens at that?
So what we'll do is we'll
Or
structure.
will you address that in the April discussion, because you don't have to?
Well, I can just tell you in
Okay.
a nutshell real
Okay.
quick. So basically, we will make sure that we structure it in such a way that it's all refundable and we could refinance
Okay.
if at some point over the next 20 years
Okay.
there are more favorable conditions. Right now, I think we're hedging our bets against what appears to not be getting any better in the near term when we would want to issue that debt. Okay. Yeah, so we had originally toyed with doing the whole amount, but we've been spending a whole lot of time looking at our cash flow analysis for the total bond program. And the IRS requires that you spend the proceeds within 3 years, and so or have a plan that could accomplish spending the proceeds in 3 years. And so the more we've looked at it, our recommendation at this point is to do $400 million to make sure that we're in conformance with that expectation. The annual debt service will actually increase by $25.6 million next year, so it's a substantial increase. We've talked about that before. I think in the beginning, we assumed that eventually at full freight, it would be up to $60 million of debt service that would be required for the full program. That requires us to move over just under another penny of the tax rate from our O&M to INS. And that's what lends itself to the conversation I just mentioned about when we talked to you about tax rate setting. The beauty of also doing this in June is it'll take a couple more variables out of the equation. So when you set your tax rate later in the summer and adopt the budget, we'll have more known variables at that point as well. So as I mentioned, we'll be out of funds next spring. We are projecting right now a 3% true interest cost based on the advice of our advisors about how they think that will play out. That's nearly twice what we were able to achieve on the first one, but still in the big scheme of things, extraordinary financing terms. So we need to keep that in sight. So we'll, but anyway, but these are the reasons that we think that accelerating it makes sense. I'm not going to read this to you, but I wanted to remind you that we created a really robust website associated with our bond program. And this is one of the pages off of that shows that the cash flow associated with that. So that chart that you see shows what the expenditure pattern looks like over time as some of the big projects really get underway and we start to see a lot of dollars associated with that over time. So that's it on the debt sale. Do you have any questions about that? I feel like I missed a slide. So one on ERP? Maybe I didn't do a full one on ERP. I think I thought about doing a full one on ERP. We're going to hold that conversation for May when I'll have all the details at your work session about what that contract looks like. But we know that there were questions about what we go through in terms of getting input on the budget process, and so I wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot. We don't need to go through all of this, but to give you a sense, we have a kickoff that we invite anybody and everybody who wants to come to participate in back in February, where we talk a little bit about the budget structure. It's sort of an educational opportunity for the college. Talk about the process. We issue a budget instruction manual and so on, and start to establish deadlines for what the campuses and other functional areas of the college need to adhere to. So the cabinet members will actually receive data about their historical spend in March, and they are completing a number of things for us in mid-April, which will include a couple of new things. And again, I've got a pretty heavy focus on position control and understanding where our authorized positions are. So we're going to engage the college overall more than we have perhaps in the past to really make sure that we've got that properly reflecting the organization, looking at our vacancies that have been there a while, and are those really needed anymore? Or do we need to reallocate those resources? making sure that we've captured the organization. We've added we've improved every year, but one of the things that we started doing a couple of years ago was we have what's called a significant new funding request. Previously, they would ask for positions, equipment, other sort of in different buckets where you didn't get the opportunity to really see what was the global impact of whatever they were proposing. And so now they aggregate those requests into a significant new funding request form that explains all of that and helps us understand what the total resource request is. And then we as the cabinet and then obviously the chancellor's office ultimately decide which of those get funded. The other thing that we've been doing as well is that some of well, actually, let me say this. So the cabinet members will complete a couple of additional things by May the 26th, which includes some of the replacement equipment funding. But one of the things we started doing a couple of years ago, and we're gradually getting broader and better at it, is, for example, we were getting requests from each campus for microscope replacements in their labs. And then the question became, well, are yours better than everywhere else? And we ought to be looking at this globally. So what we've started doing is using the faculty teams to get together, decide on standardizing the equipment, understanding the inventory across the college, doing more global replacements of stuff like that rather than doing them as one-offs. Because some of those requests could also be subject to just who happen to be motivated on a given campus to go make the ask for it. So lots of areas that we're starting to expand that to try to be more consistent about how we do that. Eventually, the dream will be to have a full inventory where we've got replacement schedules associated with the significant pieces of that. But it's a work in progress that hopefully continues to improve. But where you all get involved is obviously we're giving you a little bit of a preview at this point. And in May, we're going to be bringing back to you the debt sale authority as well as the ERP financing plan. Those are the two big things that are coming up on the horizon. In June, we are proposing I think there's a discussion of another retreat or specific workshop related to going through what requests we've received, what the preliminary recommendations are for new resources next year, what we're starting to think that the revenue picture might look like, and so on in June. We would also have a capital plan preliminary discussion with you. They're actively working with the master planning team on that, so we'll start to give you a preview of what that looks like. And then also, I've been in discussion with a couple of you about bringing Mr. Pacheco in to provide an overview of all of the things that are happening right now in terms of our IT program. So those are areas that you'll get more clarity on and the resources required. In July, we'll receive the certified tax roll. That's usually the end of the month. And so because our fiscal year starts in September, one of the things I've observed over the last 2 years is that gives us very, very little time to come back to you with what the tax rate setting in August needs to be. And you may recall that last year we got 3 different versions of the worksheet that we get from the tax assessor collector on where you are compared to those no new revenue rates and what your advertising requirements and notice requirements are and so on. That created a lot of challenges for us to try to do that and conform at the end. So we ended up adopting our tax rate in September, even though we adopted our budget in August. And that's perfectly allowable under the law. We're recommending making that our pattern of doing that to make sure that we don't end up having to, at the last minute, call special meetings and public hearings and things like that, rather than able to give you good advice in August about what that looks like, go through the process, and then adopt in September. So we think that makes a lot more sense because the schedule's just too tight for school districts that have a September 1 start date. But here's where we are, but you'll get a lot more information in June, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm not real sure how much influence we have on priorities in the budget, but we've had a lot of discussion here about getting the good news out about this college. And from my point of view, would be very important to consider additional funds, if necessary, based on whatever data we have, to increase our branding and marketing, and perhaps even engaging Cooksey or whoever to help us in that endeavor.
That's going to be a good segue to what Mr. Gates is going to talk to you about. So,
I'm sorry.
So
you
will recall. Yeah.
Well, no, thank you. No, but usually we get information. This is the budget, and yes or no. And I want to say, in my view, you need to put some priority on on the marketing and branding of the good news of this college.
That's right.
It's so very important.
That's right. You will recall that dollars were added last year, but probably not a lot was shared about sort of the more global strategy, which is what Reg is going to talk to you about how we get all of it under an umbrella where all of our different avenues of communicating are rowing in the same direction. So you'll see that here in just a moment. But we'll come back to you with a proposed budget.
Did you hear the
explain those
message?
things.
We do need
Yes, sir.
make sure that the funding is necessary
Yes.
and appropriate.
That's right.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Greenhill, because I think it looks like we're going to have some opportunities to give you more feedback around what those priorities are, at least that we've talked about, that being one of them. But it looks like we've got that on the calendar that we can
Absolutely.
actually bring
And if
those. So thank you for that.
And if there are things that we didn't discuss today, because I think we heard a lot, they're very aligned
Yes.
with what Dr. LeBlanc is planning. If you've got other ideas that you want to make sure that we're considering in preparation for that June workshop, I mean, certainly let Dr. LeBlanc or myself
Okay.
know.
We will. Okay. Anyone have any questions,
I
comments?
would
Go
just
ahead.
observe, sort of playing off what Bill has said, thank you for including us in this process at a different level. I think that will be very helpful for us and hopefully for the college.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
Thank you so much for
Thank
that.
you.
We look forward to hearing more about all the numbers and the data. All right.
Yeah, that's Reginald's
Do you need to
next.
introduce him or anything you want to?
Also, do we
Just
need more
ready.
lawyers?
Am I up there?
Look, Mr. Gates is up.
I'm waiting for it to come up. Thank you, Madam President and Board and Acting Chancellor. So I'm gonna probably go through this one fairly quickly, just given the time. But we've talked long about having a planning calendar, and I should first thank Susan, who pulled a great deal of this information together. Some of which is up here that she talked about in the budget piece, but probably for you and particularly for the public. So what we've decided to do this month is hold next week's April 14th work session, skip the following week, and have the regular board meeting on the 28th was the consensus. And I'm probably saying that more for the public consumption than for you all's. But that's some of what's taking place in April. And what we've done with it is identify what major things will be covered by way of topic in some of those particular meetings per month. Again, some of them are normal, but it's an attempt to set forth a planning calendar for the trustees as well as for the public, quite honestly, to know some of the major things that are coming up. So we dabbled in here some of the major events that are going to be taking place that impact you guys, like commencement and we'll get specific about what your roles will be in some of those. But most of these capture, either budget items, either items that Carol will cover in a particular month, and to just, kind of walk through them and set the stage for like June. We talked about getting on a regular rhythm of retreats, be they extended or mini retreats. We've also talked about, particularly Ms. Ayala, about joint opportunities for regular briefings from like the foundation board, as well as internal sort of departments that we could cover. You see, mid-June, you have the state trustee conference, so we've identified things like that. Summer, we generally take off in July when they're not topics that we have to cover. August, of course, Susan talked about the budget workshop schedule, as well as the briefings. Again, you'll see other topics that sort of sync with things on a regular annual basis that come back before you, MWBE reports, the bond reports, things that are just regular recurring events. Here's September. So again, there's another proposed board retreat for October. Again, the ACCT conference, as you all know, is always in October, the leadership conference. And then the National Legislative Summit is always in February, the first week. Here's some other milestones. Hopefully the board will do self-assessment during that month in October, as well as Some level of CEO evaluation has been the pattern. November, we talked about the public hearings relative to the redistricting piece and any other items that we would have. There's a bond report as well as MWBE briefings. The annual Audit and Finance Committee received the annual audit during December. January, just pretty much a regular kind of cycle to the meeting. So again, you'll have these and be able to look through them in detail. The additional calendar that we don't have up here that we're doing, Ms. Ayala had asked about having things, I'm going to call it a community calendar, where you know some of the things that go on in the community on a regular basis. You specifically talked about parades, so that we know where we could be involved in some of those. And then the obvious months, some of the months, Black History Month, Hispanic and others, that we'll have just a regular cycle. So we'll have that we'll keep internally in the office, and probably each month we'll send you that month of activity so that you can see ones that are in your particular markets, districts rather, or those that are kind of college-wide. So I'm going to go to, with the last 10 minutes, to the...
Could I just one comment?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Could you include Nathan's Ferguson in this calendar?
Yes.
What is it called, the audit and finance?
Internal
committee?
audit.
Yeah.
Yes, and that last one you saw in red was
We're going to have one in
referencing.
May, I think. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll circle back with Nathan, though, to make sure it's on there. But we were trying to include things like that.
Reg, on June, you said it turned to the 28th. I had the email, but I wasn't sure that it had done that yet. So we are doing we're doing a meeting on the 28th of this month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. Just
yeah,
I'm going to
we're
put
gonna-
it in my calendar now. So just
Okay,
making sure.
yeah, we're going to skip the 21st meeting
Yep,
and move
got
to
it.
regular. Okay. All right. Gotcha. So what and I appreciate Mr. Greenhill and Mr. Barr has stressed the same point, and I got it. Clearly, we're at a crossroads about what we want to do. So, and if I could just summarize, I think the message is, yes, TCC is a household name, but we now want to be TCC, a household known for what we offer. It's kind of where you want to deliver, both in not only to students, but to the taxpayers and to the community at large. So we want to do a deep dive with specificity on the things that we do beyond the brand of the name of TCC. Got it. So what I thought I wanted to at least do today, and let me do my ask first. So to Mr. Greenhill's point, what I plan to come back with, in addition to other things, and not just under the umbrella of budget increase, in order to get to some of that specificity, I'm going to come back and ask for a communication audit, where we look across the board at all of our outlets by way of communication. Ms. DeKine has been assigned by Ms. Ayala as the liaison for communications from the board, and we've talked, as recently as a moment ago, about some internal communication modes. So we're going to look internally how we communicate with the board, with faculty, with all of the stakeholders within the college, and then we're going to do the outward, student-facing, community-facing, but we want to do an audit of everything that we currently do. So that's going to be the first ask that I come back with. But what I wanted to do by way of level set is at least get in front of you what we currently have and the rationale behind it, whether we're looking to change it or not, but at least to talk a little bit about it. So we currently work with 3 communications entities, and this is just a profile of those so that you can get a snapshot of where the buckets are. So the first bucket is the Gavers Group, and we've worked with Chris, I think, back from the time, it obviously predates me, that we purchased this building. I think it's where that relationship somehow started. So when I look at the scope of what, and this is not exhaustive, but when I look at the scope of what Chris has done for us historically and continues to do under the Gino Vanini leadership, I would categorize it as strategic communications is a lot of what he did, as well as business and political relations within the community throughout Tarrant County. So that would be where I would scope him. By way of deliverables, I would think he would fall into the category of business philanthropic partnerships. So he did a lot of the connectivity with Giovannini and folk in the community, as well as he would advise on development opportunities relative to our properties. What were some potential partnerships that we could have with other folk in the community or outside of the community, quite honestly, when we looked at things like the TXU property, the property down near the Trinity, as well as adjacent properties like the additional footprint that's on this campus that could be developed. So he would advise and sort of connect on things like that. Chris has a $5,500 a month retainer. Beyond that, there are no specifics, just the retainer. I shouldn't say no specifics. I mean, there is no fee schedule beyond the retainer. His current contract ends November of this year. Next, we have Pitch Black. So you've heard doing a lot of Shannon's delivery about things that she's doing through Jeff, who is her strategic communications guy. Well, he primarily works with Pitch Black. So the work you hear when you used to see things, TCC means business, that campaign was derived from the Pitch Black agency. So we then aligned strategies as to what we would do, specifically first quarter, I think is the one we outlined. And under the TCC means business campaign, they worked and arranged promotions and placements around 3 to 4 things that Shannon is working on. One, obviously the customized training. Then the Entrepreneur Venture Fund, you heard her talk about that. The Coffee Talk series, and then the corporate facility rental. So we did a campaign around those things that Pitch Black developed, and we're implementing throughout the first quarter was the first piece of it. Then they'll come back with things that they propose for the next quarter. Their retainer is $8,000 a month. They have one specific development guy, Brian, that works with her department on a daily basis, not only to develop these things, but to advise. And then there's another piece within the company that does the placements. So we'll do a schedule for Shannon as to where we're going to do these placements. You'll recall when we came back to get the approval for that contract, Mr. Barr asked for measures and asked for us to come back and report on those. Well, that's due in June. So those kind of key points is what we're tracking that contract by. So that's what Shannon will come back in June and sort of report on. $8,000 retainer. Here's the contract expiration. It ends November of this year, and we have 2 one-year options that we do not have to exercise, but that's what the current contract says. So in addition to the retainer, so you approved $750,000. So their retainer amount of that $750,000 is at $8,000 a month, of course, is $96,000. So the balance of that is what's used to promote those areas that we identified through the campaign on Shannon's behalf. This company is, just by way of note, is an MWBE company. So thirdly, and what I like to, the buckets I like to say is non-traditional and traditional. So Shannon would be in the non-traditional marketing media buy budget bucket. Then when I say traditional, I'm talking about student-facing kind of advertising and marketing that we do. So the current company that handles that is the Alpha Business Images Agency. So you see their scope. It mirrors that of Pitch Black, but it faces differently. Pitch Black is more business, non-traditional. This is more student, community-facing that they do for us. So the whole Success Within Reach piece, is the umbrella. Then under that, you do campaigns. The most recent campaign that you've been seeing, radio, TV, mainly TV, is and you'll hear this byline, "This is college," and it looks a lot like life. So now you've seen that with the parent coming out of the closet, but the theme line is what I just said. So the whole campaign was based on that as the ringer, and then you looked at different ones. You saw the HVAC construction piece is one part of that. Obviously, we've done culinary over the years. It's part of that. Well, that campaign was developed by Alpha Business Images, and that's what we use for placement in the market. Their retainer is 8,000, and both of these, I should say. So you have anytime an agency does work outside of scope, and you all would know this listening to the Kuskies folk and some of the others that we've had, they'll have a rate. So if you do anything that's outside of the contract, which rarely happens, quite honestly, unless you get into particular situations, and they'll have a rate. Well, those rates can be from $150 to $300. What we found is the smaller the shop, the higher the rate. So because these are fairly sizable firms, the last two, if you do something outside of scope, it's, I think, $150 for Pitch Black, $155 for Alpha, but it's rare that we get outside of scope. So their retainer mirrors that of Pitch Black at $8,000 a month and $96,000 a year. So this is where you recently did the increase in budget for us to do greater media buys. So it didn't increase their retainer amount over the course of the contract, but it gave us the opportunity to buy more space within the marketplace. So we've started some of that, but to Mr. Greenhill's point, to move to where we want to be, we will probably come back and ask for additional dollars to do those buys. But I thought this would be at least a good start for us to explain to you all our logic at this point. Look, again, loud and clear. So we're versatile about that piece, but I at least wanted you to know why we do what we do, and this is how we deliver it thus far. So we can pivot and look at other things as we need to, as I'm sure we will. So, but I wanted to at least get that in front of the group. So any questions? I'd be glad to answer.
This is very helpful information for us, Reginald. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to your presentation about the assessment and what it is you're
Yes,
going to need from
I'd
that.
be very interested in, particularly in the assessment for Alpha Business Images Agency.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Did you hear Mr. Barnes that that's good? He liked your format.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Good.
it is.
Say that on the mic, Mr. Barr.
I liked it. Deadlines drive process. When are we going to get the results of your?
So I first need to come back and do an action item, in order to do that. Now, I think we can do it, if I'm not speaking out of school, I think we can do it through the work that Kuski is doing, so that may accelerate our ability to get it done, since they are doing some work because I consider this trustee work. So they're doing some things for the trustee now, and we're looking at maybe a couple of buckets of ways to do it. So
what time-wise, what are you talking about?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm deadlines drive process. Is this going to take till August, September to do the assessment?
and I'm going to answer in a roundabout way. So I think there are two tracks I'm wanting to do. So one track that you all have made clear is about the stories, right? So the stories we can do now, separate from the audit. But the audit may reveal to us the type of stories we need to tell. But I thought the more immediate, and Carol has talked with them about it, as well as Susan and myself. So those I would like to kind of move on now. And then the audit is a longer look, to be very honest with you. So, and I could see it taking into, the third quarter, to do it thoroughly. But I think if we start to do some smaller things like the stories, Mr. DeKine has some specific ideas about some internal pieces. So some of it we can start to do, though it's going to be audited. But I think the immediate can be to tell the stories. But to answer you directly, I think we might get into the third quarter before an audit is complete.
I'm always in a hurry on things like this.
I will look into accelerating it.
Well,
I think it might be something worth looking into, given expiration of contracts and budgeting cycle that we just saw. Okay. If there are some components that could drive decisions about renewing contracts and or budget decisions. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'll do it.
So it sounds like we'd like to have something sooner rather than later, but I know it needs to be done correctly and accurately. So, any other questions?
I just would have one other observation. This has been a very good meeting this morning, one of the most productive meetings from my perspective since I've been on the board. And that leads me to say to the presidents of the various campuses and whatnot, if you've got thoughts in this arena, you need to feed it to Reginald, because y'all are where the rubber hits the road, and if what we're doing isn't right, I would hope that you all are communicating about it. That would be very helpful. And I want to thank Jeannie for stepping forward to lead this effort.
Yes.
On behalf of the board.
Yes.
Good. This has been a very productive meeting. Thank you all very much. And thanks everybody to help put this together.
Yes, thank you for those comments. Anyone else have any questions, closing thoughts they want to share? Anyone else? Jeannie, anything you want to mention about the communications piece that you just want to?
We took some valuable notes today, Reg and I, in terms of what has been emphasized as board priorities in terms of communication and messaging. And I think that's really what that is all focused around. So you may see some increased communication just between me and you directly to make sure that I understood a thought or an emphasis completely. But I'm really excited to work with Reg and his team on making sure that we are communicating effectively amongst each other and that we are crystallizing communication priorities.
Right. And that we're aligned.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. Thank you. Dr. Morrison, you had something you want to say, I think?
I just wanted to quickly share that you heard perhaps in the news the last couple of days about the passing of Hall of Famer Rayfield Wright. And he was asked, I served on a board with him, the Community Food Bank Board of Trustees. He was just a delightful, humble believer, willing to serve the community. But he was asked about that Hail Mary pass from Roger Staubach to Drew Pearson years ago, and they asked him, did he see it? And he said, no, I was doing my job, which was to protect Roger. So if all of us do our jobs, we might not see the action and see the result of the work we do, but it'll get done. Thank you.
Thank you for that profound thought. Excellent, excellent. Well, there's been a lot of discussion. It's been very, very good discussion. Thanks each and every one of you for spending a Saturday morning with us. If anything, we can sense the passion that everyone feels, and it's going to take all of us working together. I think that we've all demonstrated that we have the talent to do this, and we're just, we're here to support one another. And as we work as a team, we each have our roles and responsibilities, but part of that is to make each other better. And ultimately, our students are going to benefit in the long run. So thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc, for all of your organization and for taking the helm here and putting all of this together. So unless anyone else has anything else, do you have a closing remark?
Just to thank the board for, I know there's a lot going on Saturdays.
Yes.
And you were here early, so thank you for that. And certainly the leadership stands
Absolutely.
ready to support
Thanks
this
each
college
and every one of you.
do what they need to do.
Yes, thank you. We're going to give you a clap, so thank y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. All right, so if you've had an opportunity to write some notes, just take these and then send your thoughts to Dr. LeBlanc, and we can get these ready for the next work session. So we stand, unless we're not going into closed session, so we stand adjourned. Everyone have a great Saturday. We'll see you back on April 14th for the work session.